Well, hello everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome one and all to round 7 of the Invictus Racing League. We are going this evening to the beautiful circuit of the Americas for the United States Grand Prix. But before we join our drivers in qualifying, let's take a little bit of a look at where they currently stand in the Drivers' Championship. So, adjusted format slightly to make it a little bit easier to read for everyone, but we can see, and we have to talk about EMEA. 5 races in a row, solid P1, with 2 fastest laps as well. We cannot deny the level of dominance that we are seeing on the field from the Mercedes driver. It is almost insurmountable. I can understand that a lot of the other drivers on the grid are feeling a little bit worried for their standings, how they're going to fare going through, as we are soon to cross the halfway point of the championship. And we are currently with an 18-point lead to the next driver, which is Lenny in the McLaren, almost like a silent charger in all of this. A lot of the narrative has been focused on drivers like Emir, Cass, Frederick, second Mercedes driver. Yeslad has also had a lot of media attention, but one that we don't always focus on is Lenny. Now, Lenny has been getting consistently solid results. In fact, has the same amount of podium finishes as our Drivers' Championship leader. So getting consistent seconds and thirds, and those points are racking up in their favour as they are currently second in the Drivers' Championship. But following on from that, it was a return to form last time for Cass in the Aston Martin. It's a good return to form, scoring a second place in what was quite an interesting race. It really has to be said, that was definitely interesting back in Abu Dhabi. And so Frederick also has to be said, they had a very strong showing initially in the championship, doing very well with their teammate, but as of late have really struggled to pick back up. Of course, they had their DNF with their coming together with Cass back at Suzuka, but they've really sort of struggled to pick up steam and pick up their pace since. And not even so much the pace as it is their race finishes. Say they've got a little bit unlucky, had a couple bad strategy calls, but I hope to see them come back up to fighting form today as we head to Circuit of the Americas. Should be an interesting circuit, a good challenge for the drivers as well as for everyone else involved. Coming off of that, so we had Yeslad, who definitely had their share of fun last race in Abu Dhabi. It was certainly interesting to see how much chaos, as they seem to find themselves in incident after incident. So whether it was fault of their own or not, they were certainly at the heat of the action last race. Hopefully, and as we've been saying up until this point, they have shown a good level of pace in that Alfa Romeo. Let's hope that they can pick it up, start coming back to near or hopefully in podium contention as they've shown. They've shown flashes of brilliance. They've got 2 third-place finishes, 2 podiums over the course of the championship so far. Let's hope that they bring a bit of a return to form, that luck starts to swing in their favour. Following that, we have Cameron, the fastest lap merchant of the championship from what we've seen so far. Always got a little bit of a penchant for maybe, yes, dropping a little bit further behind the rest of the field, but very quickly picking it back up. So using the clean air and really knowing how to extract 100% out of that car. And we quite often see them ticking the top of the timesheets for a majority of the race distance. Let's say, coming off of that, say some of our other contenders and ones to watch as well. Say Jasper sadly did not finish back in Abu Dhabi. Say got into a bit of an incident, but otherwise was starting to show some really good pace. They got a 3rd place back in Azerbaijan, and we might see some interesting shakeups on the order here. Also one to speak of, say Joshua, the AlphaTauris. Definitely the AlphaTauri team have been one to run alternate strategies. So that being said, it will be very curious. Forgive me, words are stammering. It will definitely be a curiosity as for what strategy they're going to run today. So their alternate strategies often haven't always played in their favor, has to be said, can't be denied, whether it's safety car, getting unlucky, or just simply the strategy wasn't optimal for the configuration for the track order. It has not always picked up in their favor, but let's hope that their alternate strategy, their gambles, will start to pay off here at Texas for the Circuit of the Americas. So just some last wrap-ups before we take a quick look at the constructors. So Adam leading the charge for his Ferrari team. So Taylor not really showing as of late to back them up. And of course, to say the Alpine, Coupe scoring their first points in the Alpine, which is always welcome to see. And we've always silently been rooting for the Alpines for their luck to change, as they had a very shaky start, had 4 DNFs. And really wanted to see them put on some performance, and we've been tracking them. So it's good to see them finally getting some points in Abu Dhabi. And hopefully that can be the start of a bit of an upwards trend for the Alpine team, as they haven't had the best of luck so far in this championship. But speaking of the teams, we've gone over some of the ones to watch, the podium sitters, some of the top drivers. Now let's look at the constructors, where Mercedes has comfortably taken a 20-point lead against their next competitor, which is a McLaren. So Emir and Frederick, although Frederick has dropped off a little bit as of late, hopefully you'll see them back up at the front. The consistent podiums, consistent P1s from Emir have really carried the constructor points for this team in a lot of ways, and we might see that lead only beginning to grow and grow and grow. But following on from that, I say we have Lenny and Cameron. So both very good drivers, both placing rather well in the drivers' standings. And as we talked about before, Cameron being the fastest lap merchant on a lot of occasions has played out in their favour in terms of points and steadily racking up. Aston Martin take 3rd place. Cass, of course, one of their fastest drivers in the league so far. So getting very good pace, as a good return to form in Abu Dhabi, as we talked about, and Morwell backing up the rear with some decent points also. Red Bull, LTB and Jasper, so sadly not getting any points last race. It really is a shame, but say they are 4th in the constructors fight. They are very close. In fact, it is what looks to be, if they're not careful, this could very quickly turn into a 4-way battle for 4th place in the constructors between Red Bull, the sister team AlphaTauri, and Alfa Romeo and Ferrari. They're all within 10 points of each other. So they'll have to be very careful with how they manage themselves. And if nothing else, they need to get their drivers to the end of the race. But coming off of that, we have AlphaTauri, as we said, is they only 2 points behind the senior team. I say Liam and Joshua putting on good performances. Despite a lot of gambles not coming up in their favour, they still have put on some good performances. Alfa Romeo, Marcus and Yes Lad. And then Ferrari, Adam, Taylor, and Alpine with Coupe and Jelly backing up the rear with their first points so far in this championship. But following on from that, we should any minute now start to see the drivers filter into qualifying. We're just completing final race preparations now. As we wait, so we should see things starting any minute. So there's one point that I would like to talk about, in fact, is if we head back to the drivers' standings quickly, is 2 things, actually. As I say, Morwell being the 2nd driver for Aston Martin, and showing some good signs of pace also throughout the course of the season. So we did have a few DNFs or non-starts, but they have continued to show. Internet's down. They're not good. Not good. But they have shown some good pace if they can hook it together. And I think this is a problem for a lot of the drivers. And this speaks to just how hard these drivers are really trying to extract absolute maximum performance out of these cars. Is we've seen a lot of drivers overcook it. We've taken it lap by lap analysis of some of the drivers' performances. Some technical issues. Appreciate you letting me know. More. I didn't realize. Welcome to the chat. But so just was saying, there are, and this speaks to just how hard these drivers are willing to push and really trying to extract 110% out of these cars, is just how visually how on the ragged edge they are. Like, we've gone through some of the lap by laps, especially in qualifying. It is evidence that these drivers are really pushing. You can see all of the little micro adjustments, or the over rotations and quick corrections. These drivers are really at the pinnacle of the league. You can see them constantly, say, pushing the cars, testing the limits, quick to catch. Also very quick to catch the cars if they do go a little bit on the over rotation, and it really is amazing to see. Hopefully, there have been reports of some technical issues with the game, and there has been reports in other leagues as well of desync, being an issue with this latest update. We are monitoring the situation, but just so that we are all aware. Hopefully we get some good racing today. Hopefully we get some nice clean racing, we get some good wheel-to-wheel battling, and we shouldn't have any real technical issues. But it is in the interest of awareness that we let everyone know there have been some performance issues with this latest update, and to that end, we will be actively monitoring and praying for some good races. So, as a wise friend once said, let our frames be high and our game not die. That is the gamer's prayer, and I urge you all to join us. And before we get into the racing, so we're just final preparations and technical timeout, we would like to talk about the schedule quickly. So the schedule has been updated. Of course, we are on round 7, about to cross the halfway point of the season, which is pretty exciting. We're really seeing some good stories and some of the cream of the crop in terms of drivers on the game. But we would like to draw attention to the updated schedule. So you will see, of course, Monaco. Next week, we go to the lovely streets, lovely Monegasque streets, for some, hopefully, close racing. So yet to be seen. We'll have to see how this race pans out, where we come with the championship. But you will notice that there is a break between Monaco and Saudi Arabia. There is a week break planned. There will be a break that week in order for, say, holidays and, say, just giving our drivers a rest. Say, a mid-season break. So we will have a week's hiatus, and then we will be right back in racing with us, say, with the 25th to the 28th of that race week. But with that all being said, drivers are now readying up, and we are about to head into qualifying here in Texas, USA. Let's jump in with that now. Alright, let's quickly get ourselves set up. In the chat, be sure to let us know your favourites and who you peg to be both our driver for the day and our winner for the racing today. So we're going to start to see drivers roll out now, start to get their tyres warmed up and start to get some banker laps in. You can see Ferrari and the Mercedes, AlphaTauri all pouring out of the pits now, just trying to get those banker laps in ASAP. We are, I believe we are all set up. Let's hop on board with some of the drivers. Okay, we're going to hop on with Lenny first things first. In fact, let's take a quick peek. Here we go. So things to know of this track, of course, we have the lovely turn 1 uphill 90-degree, but there's also the S's, and this is really going to be a test of driver skill. It's all about setting up your car perfectly so that you can take as much speed through those S's as you possibly can. Of course, F1 cars renowned for their high downforce and high cornering Gs and speeds, pulling almost 5-6 Gs in peak cornering. So with a section like that, it would certainly push any F1 driver to their absolute limits, and in terms of setup and driving skill here in the game, it is no different. Go more. Yeah, unfortunately there are some drivers who have had to retire or not attend this race due to technical issues, which is always a shame. You would love to see the full grid, because no one likes it when you can't go racing. It is always a shame. So here we go. So we're going to stay on board with Lenny for now. So just coming to complete that outlap, we're going to see how the McLaren likes to do it here in Texas. There we go, as we come to the uphill. A good line through the first corner. Of course, being an uphill, you have to treat it very differently to anything else. It's unlike any other corner that we've really seen on the F1 calendar. You can see very nice. Having to let off a little bit on the S's, picking a little bit too much speed potentially, not getting the perfect setup, but otherwise very good driving, very good lines so far from the McLaren. But curiously, it has appeared that the AlphaTauri has stopped on track. Yeah, it's the AlphaTauri of Liam having stopped on track. There we go. So second DRS zone, taking it very nicely through the second technical section of the track. And so far, first banker is going to come in. It's going to be a 132.4 from Adam in the Scuderia. Very good lines, to say a good pace from the McLaren. Is it going to be enough to set the current fastest? Cass is going to go for 131.6, a good banker. And it's going to be a 134 from Lenny. Not quite on the pace just yet. May have taken those lines on the rest of the circuit a little bit loose. But we have yet to see everyone fully claim their bankers. So the jury is still out. In fact, we are going to head over to none other than our pole sitter, who's actually got an invalid. Seems like it's going to have to go around again. We can see just the level of the speeds that these cars are hitting. Let's say the Mercedes in this case, hitting 197 miles an hour on this back straight. Truly some insane speeds. And it really is all a little bit about the balance. In terms of the setup for these cars, you have to take everything into consideration, because if you run some less aggressive aero, you will be faster on the straights. Yes, DRS will be more effective for you, if you have a higher base speed. However, when it comes to the technical sections, you will lose out. In fact, due to that invalid, Emir is going to come into the pits, is not going to go around again for another banker lap. But one that we are going to hop on with now is they just come to finish their banker lap at qualifying here. It's going to be a 1:33.8, putting them just ahead of Lenny in the McLaren. Good banker lap from the primary Alpine driver. One person we are going to hop in with now is Cameron, as it looks like they're going to be tailing their teammate. In qualifying, no less. Not good, considering Cameron is going to have to deal with the effects of the dirty air from his teammate, and is not good for anyone involved, really. The Coupe is going to do the courteous thing and yield. And what looks like a fastest first sector for the second McLaren here. So they're on fresh soft rubber, done their outlap, got the heat in. Let's see some good race pace, boys. Let's see some good quality pace. So both hitting the DRS. I'm not sure why these two are sticking so close. Lenny has already got a banker lap, and Cameron is going to be affected by the dirty air. They're going to get very close. Almost come into contact. They very narrowly missing his teammate there. It's a good job really balancing the brakes, Cameron. But that's the perfect example. So dirty air, having your teammate in front of you, that is surely going to harm your lap times. You just saw there a little bit of understeer from the Papaya car. Really pushing the track limits there, although does manage to keep the lap valid. It's going to be a 1:32.1 though. Very nicely done from Cameron, despite being in the wake of his teammate. It looks like he's going to try and go on the inside, and his leg's going to back off of Lenny. I think Lenny is going to go for another flyer, which, when you're going for a flyer, the last thing you need is your teammate, of all people, going in for a move. But here we are. We are going to quickly check in on our pole sitter, that being Emir right here. So they're just coming to finishing their outlap. Weirdly got the wrong tire texture. Okay, interesting. They are, I can confirm they are on softs. However, the game is incorrectly displaying that. And we're going to stick with Emir, with our pole sitter, or our current Drivers' Championship leader, even, correction. As they now go to set a flyer. Going to see how they do it. No, forgive me, it is the incorrect display. Forgive me, that was an error of my part. Okay, Emir, actually, it's quite interesting that they're going on the medium compound. Could they potentially be going for an alternate strategy here? I say alternate strategies are always a gamble, as drivers usually tend to run the softest compound early in the race and then almost predictably wait for a safety car to get a free pit stop window. So alternate strategies, at least over the course of the races so far, haven't really been a successful gamble. Emir is simply using the mediums to get their banker in, so that should all else fail, they have the options. But still, despite everything, setting a fastest sector 2. So regardless of the compound disadvantage, it's still brilliant driving from the Mercedes. Really showing their skill and just how well dialed in their car is, how much attention they're paying to the setup, which really is everything. It's the difference between the cream of the crop, and going second place, only 4/10 behind Cass, who is on a compound advantage. That is excellent driving from the Silver Arrows. We're going to quickly hop on though with Jasper, who is just finishing their outlap here and is the last driver to set a banker. So they have yet to set a time, as we have already crossed the halfway point of qualifying here. So taking a little bit too much of the inside curve, getting a little bit unsettled in the Red Bull. Cass is going to get a 131.4, growing that gap to 0.6 now. Be curious to see how the Silver Arrows respond to that. So Jasper going fairly deep, not really carrying that much speed through the S section. Seemed very shallow. Certainly be checking it on their sector times. So there we go. Otherwise, doing quite well. Bit of a counter steer, maybe a little bit of over rotation there. There we go. Really sending it down the back straight. It's only 191 miles an hour on the speed trap. That is a few miles an hour deficit to the fastest that we've seen here. And does, again, go to tell the strengths of a good car setup. That will net you seconds over a lap and potentially be the difference between you getting a midfield position and getting a podium. So as well as the driver's talent, the pre-race is just as important, especially at this level of competition. There we go, as we come around the final corner. Is going to be a 133.2. That's excellently done. Say forgive me, I am just going to set that so that that does not bother us anymore. Apologies for the noise. And there we are. That is a very good banker lap, putting themselves in 8th place now as we come up to the last 5 minutes of qualifying. We have a last chance. You can see a lot of the drivers are pitting now, are preparing to set their final top pace laps and really show how they do it here in Texas. We're going to quickly hop on with Coop, however. Say sadly got an invalid lap, but otherwise it looked to have potentially been on some good pace had they held it together. Might have had an incident or spun. And I am getting reports from the paddock that we are already seeing desync issues. That battle between Cameron and Lenny, the two McLaren drivers, that was reportedly not how it happened according to Cameron's POV. So the word that I'm getting right now is that Lenny could not see Cameron at all. Their teammate was completely invisible to them, hence the close proximity and the battling basically being undiffused. We'll say that the battling was never diffused, and that is the reason why. So as we have been saying, we will continue to monitor the situation regarding desync, and the admins will make considerations and will make adjustments as necessary. We're going to stay with Coop now, as they might potentially be looking to set a faster time. So it's half a second up compared to their Sector 1 best. So it's looking promising. A little bit of a wobble there, but holds it together. Very good driving skill shown there. So going a little bit narrow into the back hairpin. Not quite getting the apex and getting the speed that they would have wanted. There we go. You can see he's sending it down the back straight. Say 196 miles an hour. Down the back straight, so pretty close in terms of speed trap to the fastest, only 1 mile per hour down. Second down on their Sector 2 best, or their overall. So it's looking good. We might potentially see the Alpine jump up the order. That being said, they did go very wide into that corner. Not quite holding the grip. It's going to be an over rotation, and it's going to be a spin for the Alpine. Right on the exit of the lap, not to mention. You hate to see it. You really hate to see it. And you can see the Alpine's going to limp into pits, get on those fresh tyres as soon as they can in order to try and set a last good bank and really try and get as much of a grid position as they can before the race. We're going to hop in, though, with Adam, who is going to be coming in as they're going for potential setup. So they've got an invalid time, but with the amount of time that's left here in qualifying, the gamble is whether they're going to go in for pit. At this stage, the drivers are going to have to make a pretty critical decision. Do they go into pit and risk not making the window, or do they play it safe? I'm going to see, what is Adam going to do? They are going to go into the pits. They're going to cut it fine, potentially. So we've got through all of this, so they've got about a 10-second window between getting back out of the pits and actually making the quali closing. So that Ferrari is going to have to be lightning quick if they're going to have a chance at a final lap. You can see here, everyone is out in full force here. So I'm going to hop on with Joshua. Say a 132.8. He's probably going to be looking to improve that pretty quickly. Taking the S as well, but washing out a little bit wide on the final segment. Taking a bit of the sausage curb as well. A little bit unsettling the car. So those sausage curbs, especially on the inside of the S's, are very dangerous. You have to take extra precaution when it comes to those, because your car gets very upset if you even look at them the wrong way. And it's a true test of driver skill. There we go. You can see Liam yielding to his teammates. A good team play there. Cass with a 131.1 is going to continue to chip away at the lead and make it 10th and 10th bigger slowly over the course of qualifying. They have 50 seconds, so we're coming up to the last few runs. So we stick it with Joshua. Looking pretty good so far, holds it well over the high-speed right-hander. Coming up to the last corners, the pace is looking good. From the AlphaTauri, what is it going to be as they round the last corner? It's going to be a 131.4. Brilliant pace. That is going to put them in second place on the order. Brilliant driving from AlphaTauri there. Excellently done. I'm going to hop on with our pole sitter quickly. Looks like they are going to be backing off. Looks like they're going to be happy with their 131.1. So the question is, at this stage, who is going to be the last to cross that finish line? Frederick is going to be trying to finish their flyer as quickly as they can. And Mia is coming across turn one. So they just managed to make the entry window. Although, interestingly, Adam in the Ferrari did not come back out. Potentially, they didn't see the time in it. You can say Amir going a little bit deep, not catching the apex of the last section. Not sure if we're going to see... Oh, and a little bit of a wobble there. I'm not sure if we're going to see our lead change. We may potentially be looking at qualifying order, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. It says Frederick inches their time up to a 131.5. It's not going to be enough to take down Cass or Joshua, as they are going to be locked essentially in third place, and I believe the AlphaTauri of Joshua is also going to be pretty happy. Although a mere 2/10 up so far on their overall. We're going to stick it with them as we see what time they may potentially set. Going to quickly just have a look and say, oh my god, Lenny with a 131.3. That's a brilliant lap from the McLaren. That is second place right there. What a shake-up. What a brilliant move. Oh, and it looks like Amir is... Say he was 2/10 up, and yet he decided to call it an abandon. Down to a 7th place. To say, what is going on with the order? They're brilliantly driving to all. They Cass with a 131.1, really setting some pace there. But overall, it's going to be Aston Martin taking pole position here in Texas at Circuit of the Americas. What a qualifying session. What a brilliant qualifying session. But there we go. There is your order, ladies and gentlemen. So, rounding off top In pole position is Cass in the Aston Martin at 131.1. Lenny just 2 tenths behind in the McLaren, and Joshua winging the 3rd place on the podium for 131.4. Following that, we had Frederick in the Mercedes 4th place, 131.5. Cameron with a 131.7, and then Liam, Amir, Adam, all taking 132s within a few tenths of each other, and then you had Jasper and Coop in the 133s. So all overall though, very good pace being set, especially considering some of the drivers were on a compound disadvantage for their fastest. Disappointing performance from Mercedes. Mercedes have been known for pulling it back from sometimes dire situations, and we are seeing a return to form for Frederick at least, so by no means are Mercedes out for the count here. We'll just have to wait and see, as the formation lap is soon to get underway. Alright, well, as our formation lap gets underway, let's take our time to set up. Looks to be all in order. Ah, didn't know you had a personal relationship with them, Andreas. I'll go with Andreas if that's okay with you. Didn't realise you had a personal relationship with them. Pushing them hard, trying to practice as good as they can. Well, let's hope that they convert that into some advancing positions. So we'll see if their practice comes to show. As we hop on and say ones to watch before we get into the racing here today. First off, if you are not aware of me as your commentator, say my name's Sappy, I will be your commentator for the racing here today. As always, pleasure to be here. I never formally introduced myself to you all. And of course, if you would like to check out our partners, say brilliant people that we're working with, say GT Omega and Grid Finder, great people to work with, say great communities and great products that they offer. Be sure to check them out. But otherwise, I say the ones to watch, obviously the Mercedes drivers. Say they've had a very dominant string performance, at least from the front of the grid with Emir. And there we go, as formation lap comes to close. So Cass very much back on form, so they will definitely be one to watch, and we've seen plenty of battling between themselves at the front of the grid. This is his favourite track. It is a shame. So there have been technical issues reported across multiple leagues, and the situation is being monitored. It is being monitored by the relevant admins, and that's the best that we can offer, unfortunately. We are a little bit at the mercy of the game, but with that all being said, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights. And it's away we go. Let's take a look at the order, say how we go. To say a little bit of jostling from the Ferrari, getting a good getaway, trying to make a move right away. Say it's going to be immediately, say a little bit of contact to me, it's going to be sent wide, and AlphaTauris are going to be battling at the back. Cass is getting away wholeheartedly. Say let's take a quick look at Amir, managed to get up to 5th place despite all the chaos, and is really tailing Joshua there. Say a little bit of concertinaing from the drivers up ahead as they dodge and weave each other, really just trying to break the toe and get as much grid position as they can in these early stages. And what has happened? Joshua is going to be out. Joshua is going to be out of the race. No, they are not. They are going to be I thought that was terminal damage, but it's just their front wing. They managed to hold it together. So they're going to be definitely limping back to the pit lane with damage, pretty sharpish. Not the race start that you want to see. Immediately, that understeer is going to cause big issues for them racing. And as we look down the second straight, it's going to be a bit of a battle between Jasper and Coop. So you're going to be peeking left to right, or outside to inside. But Coop is not going to be able to make a move, at least not yet. But they are definitely keeping an eye on that Red Bull. We can see a little bit of a battle going up on ahead. Say Liam, looks like they made a little bit of contact with Cameron there. Or at least a little bit of dust got kicked up, potentially from brushing. A pretty chaotic first lap. So we've already seen a little bit of drama. So Joshua coming off of that, pretty much the worst. Oh, big over-rotation, big over-correction from Liam there. So they managed to catch the car, but that almost was a second AlphaTauri being binned into the wall. Luckily, they managed to catch it in time. So, and there we go. Joshua is now in the pits. Let's take a quick look at Adam in the Ferrari, who is going to try and be on the charge to the Mercedes, or at least try to keep pace with them. But it looks like from the timesheets, it's either going to be static, or it looks like those Mercedes are going to slowly be getting away. Adam doing very well, keeping it very clean through the S's, and as we head to the back straight, we're going to hopefully see that gap being held. And not the cleanest exit through that back hairpin. A little bit of a wobble there as well. And try and break the toe for the McLaren behind. Not only are they on the offense, but they are also on the defense here. So Adam is going to essentially be fighting both sides of his car. Okay, managing to keep that gap consistent, but it's slowly peeling away. Doing a good job, though, to keep the McLaren at bay simultaneously, however. And it's very good apexes, are really holding the line well through. And as we head back to the final corners, it's going to be pretty good running. So the Ferrari doing quite well. And there is race control. DRS is now enabled. This is where we start to see some power moves heading through the back straight and through the start finish. One thing we are going to hop on with is Frederick here. So they are going to be on the chase down for Lenny, and one thing that they need to be careful of is DRS is now enabled. Lenny is not going to have the DRS. Oh, looks like they're going to have to go into the infield, really not getting a good line there. Having to compromise their line, taking too much speed potentially. And we were going to say that it was going to be a big priority of Fredericks to keep them within that DRS window, but it looks like they have passed detection and they will not need to worry. Missing the apex slightly, but going for a bit of a wider line, looking to carry a bit more speed as DRS is now enabled. Are we going to see Frederick? Are they going to have enough speed to make a move? Say Lenny is going to cover off the inside. It's going to do a little bit of squeeze, potentially a little bit of squeezing, but so they are still holding side by side as they go into the next corner. It's going to be contact. It's going to be a little bit of contact there. So really battling these two drivers. Have we got any damage? Nope, no visual damage as it can see. What a battle. Lenny just coming out on top, getting a better exit. What a battle through that technical section. These drivers are really giving it their all. I'll say a little bit of wobble from Frederick there. And again, so potentially over-rotating the car a little bit. A little bit of frustration. So remember, this is as much as a mental game as it is a physical one. So just as much as they are pushing the car and pushing themselves, I imagine, they also need to keep a level head. I can imagine that Frederick may have got frustrated and is pushing potentially more out the car that they can do. As you can see, getting very close to going into the infield there. Potentially taking a bit more, so getting a bit of understeer from the car also. So they're potentially in a little bit of frustration and trying to get that place back, are pushing more out the car that it can take. But so far, very good battling. And the question is, they have their teammate behind them in Mia. Are we going to see any place trading, or are they going to be going together as a united front? So we're going to see, again, Lenny is going to cover off the inside. It's going to be further ahead this time round. It's going to be in a bit of a better position. Frederick is going to have a bit of a wobble as they go just outside the curbs. Going to have to tuck in behind Lenny, and now they're going to have to contest with the dirty air from the McLaren and try to keep it on the tail. It looks like Lenny is going to use that dirty air almost to their advantage as they peel away. That gap grows a little bit between themselves. But what we're going to quickly pay attention to now is the Ferrari of Adam as they look to be making a charge on Liam here. They are within half a second. There is the detection zone. I say a little bit of a wobble, potentially over-rotating, but they have the DRS. Are they going to make a charge? Yes, they are. They're going to go to the inside. Can they get the move done? They're not the best line through, but they've got Liam right on their tail here. It's going to be a proper battle. Liam's peeking left to right. Try and get a bit of a move, get a bit of a gap on the Ferrari to try and reclaim that position. And we're not going to see it. We are, at least for now, not going to see it. But for Liam, I'm sure it is going to be a battle of trying to keep them and get them through the second DRS zone on the back straight. But here we go, so right on their tail here. The gap is there, the DRS detection is up, and the wing is now open. Liam is going to try and make a charge. What's Adam going to do there? They're going to respond. They're going to keep it still. They're going to keep it straight. There's a little bit of tyre bump potentially. So a little bit of a wobble. There we go. That is going to be a move completed. Adam is still going to be right on their tail, but it's not quite going to be enough though. It looks like, I'm not sure what's happened to Frederick, but they have dropped behind. They have dropped not only behind their teammate, but also behind Cameron. The McLaren is now separating the two Mercedes drivers. So we might have to potentially look back if we can and see what happened there. Although, interestingly, Liam is going to go into the pits. They're going to be the first driver to go into the pits, potentially an early strategy. Are they going to be trying to eke out another compound? We'll see what try they run. They're going to be running the mediums, so it may be a case of going soft, medium, soft for the duration of the race. So we are going to quickly hop back on with a McLaren. So they're going to hop on with Cameron now, who's chasing down Frederick, and is going to be looking to pass them on the DRS potentially. Although that being said, Frederick is peeling away. It's half a second now, and that back straight is not enough to make up half a second of time alone. There we go, seemingly getting quite a good exit. DRS is now open. Are we going to see a potential dive bomb? Doesn't look like it. It looks like they're going to stay right behind Frederick. Oh, they're going to peek around the inside. They're going to put their nose in. Bit of a lockup from Frederick there. Big lockup on the inside left. And is really going to put them in a fight now. Going to have to really put on the defensive. Another wobble from Frederick. Uncharacteristic. Little wobbles, little micro adjustments and mistakes happening from the second Mercedes. So Cameron's not giving them an inch there. There's going to be another brief lockup for Frederick. So really pushing the absolute limit out of that Silver Arrows car. Almost a little bit too much. There we go. It's going to be a bit of a charge. They're going to stick their nose in. And what's a move? They're going to try and go side by side, but they didn't get the exit. They over-rotated. And Frederick is going to breeze back by and retake their position. That is some brilliant driving from the Mercedes. Although they're going to go into the infield. They're potentially taking a bit more. But what has happened to Coop? Coop has completely lost it. So they over-rotated on the first corner and only just recovered. Not looking too hot for the Alpine driver once again. And so we did see over-rotations in qualifying, and over-rotating being a common theme. They may want to look at their setup or even potentially their sensitivity as a means to adjust and have a look and try and solve that problem. But Cameron is going to go for a DRS overtake on the back straight against Frederick, and now it's going to be a case of Frederick trying to charge back. They have nothing to defend from, So Coop is going to bin it again by the looks of it. So they're stopping on the hairpin, over-rotating. A big problem for that Alpine car. And I'm not sure what it is, but they seem to consistently be having issues, and I may suggest looking at that. There we go. So Frederick is now going to head into the pits. So we're going to take a quick look at the tyres that everyone is running. So we're going to start seeing in the next few laps or so, we're going to potentially start seeing people start to peel into the pits where they're on the soft tyres. They may have reached the end of their life now, unless they really plan to eke them out. No safety car to bank on for the alternate strategies, or for the standard strategies just yet. And hopefully we don't see any safety cars at all. It's looking very good in terms of racing so far, despite the reported issues. Here we go. We're going to stick it with Adam here, as they are on the defense now from the Red Bull of Jasper. They're definitely going to have to be putting on a solid defensive here, and it's going to be not really what we're looking for as they go onto the outside and into the grass a little bit. Of course, dirty tyres are going to reduce their grip as well, so they are not only being overtaken by the Red Bull, but they're also going to have to contend with a little bit of reduced grip until those tyres clean up. Though it looks like that problem has mostly been mitigated. Oh, and as I say that, there's going to be a big power slide from the Scuderia. There's a big power slide. What has happened there? But either way, whatever happened there, that has cost Adam some valuable time. Maybe it's the tyres starting to let go here in Texas. And you see another wobble, and that's going to be all the signal that the Ferrari needs to take it into the pits and swap it out for fresh rubber. One that we are going to look at though, so Frederick getting another 3 seconds. But we're going to hold with Amir here, and as our two of our podium contenders are now locked in battle, and Amir is going to, they are within a 10th of that DRS detection zone, make that 2/10. They've got a very good exit out of the S's there and are just going to pass detection. So we may start to see the Mercedes clawing back and trying to make a challenge on Cass going into the next couple of laps. So DRS is open and the 10ths are dropping. Amir is certainly within striking distance now, especially when you consider that they are on the mediums, which have a longer life to them, whereas Cass might start to see some of the aging softs start to give up some of their grip and lose that grip advantage that they once had. Coop, interestingly, has gone into the pits and has opted for the hard compound, so they may be looking at a one-stop strategy, which is really the only instance that we've seen so far of it here in Texas. Wonder if any other drivers will follow suit. But there we go, say another DRS zone. We're going to close up those 10ths once again. Could we potentially see a challenge through the S's? That will certainly be some exciting racing, as Amir is within 3/10 now. There we go, so Lenny is going to go into the pits for some mediums. So we are looking at Cass as one of the leads, and as Frederick says, a 134.7 on fresh soft rubber. He was potentially going soft medium throughout the course of this race. So Cass is really just keeping it behind for the detection line, so that's a good bit of race strategy there, as Cass looks like they didn't quite get the exit that they wanted out of the S's. DRS is now open. It's going to be a DRS overtake going through the back straight. So going to take it very inside, really just close the moves. They're coming back to the outside to get the optimal line, and that is going to be a move with Amir now in first place. And the question is now for the Aston driver, are we going to start to see them going into the pits as a result of that? So they've conceded position this might be a good time for them to swap out for fresh rubber. But as we take a look here, we say with Coupe, say it's not unrecoverable. So given that they are on the hards, they will have an advantage of one less pit stop to take, potentially going for a one stop. So they're taking it very wide, struggling with the lines. It's not looking good for the Alpine. Cass, though, interestingly, as well as Cameron in the McLaren, has opted to stay out, where nearly all the other drivers have swapped out their softs for either fresh compound or a different compound entirely. These drivers have opted to stay out on what must surely be some really aging softs by this stage. So there we go, so some strong racing so far from all drivers. We're going to take a quick look at Adam, who is going to be on the attack now, who is tailing Liam in the AlphaTauri, and is probably going to be trying to make a move for 7th place in the next few corners, or at least try to close as much of that gap as they can through to the DRS. So we're coming up to the halfway mark of the race distance here, and it surely has been some exciting racing, and for once actual racing without any safety incidents thus far. They've had a couple of yellow flags in a couple sectors, but there we go. Adam is going to make the DRS overtake. It's going to really open up that gap, use everything of the track limits there to get as much of a good exit as they can. Really just open up as much of a distance. Ooh, a bit of an over rotation again from the Ferrari though. Same corner. I think they are just pushing it a little bit too hard, but regardless, that gap has grown to the point where Liam, at least for now, is not a threat to the Ferrari. I say we see Cameron going in, finally retiring those soft tyres for mediums, but Cass, crazily enough, as it looks to, we are looking at a tyre management wizard, because Cass is on 11 lap old softs, and from a track that looks like has very high tyre wear, they are still maintaining a decent distance between themselves and the race leader. They're doing a very good job in that Aston Martin, managing those tyres, and although it's not going to be enough for the DRS, it's still going to be very good driving to the point where they've managed to keep that Mercedes reeled in somewhat. They haven't fully gotten away. They've managed to keep it. And that just goes to show some of the brilliant driving and management going on from the Aston Martin. Although they will surely have to retire those softs this lap. They're out of the DRS. They have no reason to continue on this aging rubber. While they're out of the DRS, they might as well take the shot and swap to the medium compound, and they're going to do so, heading in to the pits now. So as we take a quick look at the Ferrari now, who's now has managed to close a gap and is on the attack now to the papaya car of Cameron. So the McLarens sticking together, holding 5th and 6th, although Adam is going to be within the 1 second, or are they? There we go. Yep, that is going to be a pass on the detection. They're going to start to claw a little bit of that time back. The question is, can the Ferrari keep it held together through the S's in order to keep Cameron within that DRS window? And it really has come down to a battle of DRSs. Say all of these drivers really pushing the absolute limit of these cars are pretty much all on very similar rubber. Cameron, in fact, it might be at a slight disadvantage. They are on fresh mediums, which means it's going to take a little bit of time for the heat to get into those tyres. So there we go. It's a good line, very good line from the Ferrari, but it's not going to be enough. Cameron is 1.4 seconds out, which means they are not going to get the DRS as they would have liked. And speaking of within windows, say between themselves and Lenny is going to be Cass, who is splitting up the McLarens now and is on the charge to try and take back some of the positions and make up time from where they have taken their pit stop. And in fact, the only people who have not taken pit stops is Mir and Jasper. So they are really almost in a race of their own at this stage. This is the battle for, at least for now, what looks to be the podiums. And there we go. So Cass is on some fresher rubber, slightly fresher rubber than Lenny's, although with the aging on them we shouldn't see that much of a difference. And now Cass is going to be on the charge to really try and close up. There's a very good line through the S's there, mediating their speed almost perfectly. Really closing that gap. Oh, it's going to be an issue in Sector 3 though. What's going on there? So it looks like Coop had another bit of a little issue. Potentially lost the grip in their car. Although no damage to be seen. They will not need to retire to the pits, which is always good. And here we go. Let's take a look at Cass here, who is on the chase now, has managed to keep the DRS and is closing the tenths as we speak, going through the back straight. It's going to be within 2-3 tenths now, right on the tail of the papaya car. And this is where they got to reel them in. So you try and navigate the dirty air, manage the compound. And we may be looking at a one-stop from the Aston Martin. So we saw how well they managed those soft tyres despite being under pressure and on pressure. But we may be seeing a one-stop for a lot of these drivers. So the soft to medium, if you can manage your tyres, is a good strategy. Where we may see others go for soft, medium, soft, and then also try and bank the fastest lap. So there we go. So it's going to be Cass going for a DRS move. It's going to be a good overtake. A little bit of a lock up there, but has managed to hold it together. So that McLaren is by no means done yet. But Cass has track position, and track position is what you need. It's always key. It's a lot harder to attack than it is to defend. We can see that there. So Cass has got a brilliant line through the S's. Lenny's got a little bit caught up in the wake, and that gap has grown a little bit. But we come up to the back straight. We come up to DRS here. So are we going to see any defensive moves from Cass as the DRS is now open for Lenny? It's going to be 6 tenths to try and make up. Have they got enough wiggle room? It's going to be close, but it's not going to be enough. Even with a lockup from Cass on the entry to the hairpin, it is not going to be enough. So taking a quick look at the AlphaTauri of Joshua, so checking up with them. Had some incident, a little bit of an issue early on in the race, and so far is essentially running their own. They're running in completely clean air. So at this stage, because every position here has a potential for points, so say 10 positions, 10 points awarding positions, all you have to do to score points for your team and for yourself is make it to the end of the race. So I wouldn't recommend any drivers going too risky with their strategies or their driving, even if it does look like that you could make up positions if you pushed over the distance. Sometimes you have to make that judgment call of whether it's safe or not. So there we go. Having a quick look, so we take it through the exit of the S's here. So Lenny is still on the chase to the Aston Martin of Cass here. It's going to be within 8 tenths, so they are going to get DRS on the back straight, and we are mostly back to exactly where we were one lap earlier. It's going to be a little bit more time to make up on this go, but could we potentially see some dives or some moves? So Cass again is going to go to the outside, really maximize their track width, and again a little bit of a blip on the lockup. So there we are. So that gap could not be any closer. So they've done very well, both drivers, to keep it within contention, and we've seen a lot of good battling here today. So Frederick is going to get another time penalty. We're starting to see those racking up a little bit. Say certain drivers where they do want to push the limits a little bit, and we see there that's going to be Frederick going in for fresh rubber. So they've run out their softs, maybe going to their final compound for the race is going to be mediums. So really trying to minimize the use of the mediums where they can, which makes sense given that they are the lower grip of the two compounds. So here we go. Lenny doing very well, still within 6/10 of the Aston Martin as they're keeping it close. They're going a little bit deep and not quite carrying the speed, and that's going to be a little bit of a time loss there. Now we are starting to see a little bit of a pattern. So they, as much as they are doing well to close the gap, for Lenny's point of view, that gap is still growing. Ever so slightly, but it is growing nonetheless, so they need to start making some moves potentially. If they have any chance of taking a podium position in this race, they're going to have to start making some moves. But one that I would like to check up on with is Jasper. Now they are on 16 lap old mediums, and it is definitely starting to show given how slow they are taking some of these corners. That gap between themselves and Cass is going to be waning very fast. We see Amir, who has, after 16, 17 laps of nursing the compound, there we go, Jasper is going to follow exactly. So it's going to hit the wall on the pit entry, though. Not looking good. So is that going to be a front wing replacement? Nope, that is going to not constitute damage. So Jasper getting extremely lucky there, but is going to be coming out in 6th place. And one person that I do worry for is Amir here. Of course, they have 10 laps to do it, and they are on fresh rubber. You can see that gap, just how quickly that gap is closing. But that being said, they are on fresher rubber, but they do still have to fight for track position. They are going to have to go full attack, and once they get past Cameron, they are not going to have DRS. And Cameron, though, interestingly, is just going to tuck behind. But I think they are seeing that they have the pace advantage in the Mercedes. Potentially was trying to go for a strategy move, try and get behind the Mercedes before the detection line, but doesn't look like it was meant to be. Now, are they going to keep that Mercedes within the 1 second is the question. The one that we are going to quickly hop on with is Lenny. So that battle between themselves and Cass has all but continued, but that gap, I think we're going to start to see that gap waning pretty shortly, as Coop has another off. They are going to go off the track once again. Really not sure what was going on there with the Alpine, really getting out of shape and unstuck, and that's going to be another spin. It's not looking good for the Alpine there. Far from looking good, and in fact we might start to see the blue flags have to come out if this continues. And there we go, that's another, it's not, really not good. Going to have to see these drivers slow down as they are coming up to Coop here. They might have to slow down if there are any other issues. There we go, so Lenny is 6/10 behind. That gap has waned slightly, but this could be the potential window that Lenny needs to try and stage a move. They're 2/10 up compared to the way they were on previous laps. That might just be enough if they can play their cards right to get their nose in and start a proper battle, and it's going to be a back off. Still not going to be enough just yet. And Cass is doing an excellent job of defending, so they're on the constant pressure from the McLaren, and it's not phased him. It's not phased him. In fact, Lenny looks to be the one who is being more phased out of the two, given the fact that they just got a little bit sideways and a little bit out of shape, and understeering a bit through the final corners. It's because that they are starting to feel the pressure, definitely, and really trying to push They say they've been stuck behind that Aston Martin for God knows how many laps, and they are wanting to make a move and wanting to make it now. But Emir is going to set a 1:33.5, which is a brilliant time. And in fact, if we have a look, you can see, so everyone's going for primarily a one-stop strategy. Jasper is going to set 1:33.3 in the Red Bull. So mimic the strategy of Emir, and potentially in a little bit of cleaner air is really capitalizing on it. But if we have a look at the fastest laps, the pace differential across some of the drivers is quite astounding. Say it's a few seconds, which is certainly interesting. But there we go, as we hop on, is going to be, that gap is going to be even smaller for Lenny. They are on the pressure from the Mercedes also. It is going to be now or never. The Mercedes is also going to peak around the inside. Cass is going to take a little bit of a defensive. It's going to be 3 wide potentially, but no, Emir is going to back up around the backside. So Coop is going to luckily ghost out, keep out of drivers' way. Emir is going to be on the full attack. They're on the soft compound. They have the pace. They've done exceptionally well to catch up such a short time. And now they're on the attack, almost 3 wide going down the back straight. So really getting close. They're having to back off out of caution of the McLaren, so potentially being wary of the desync issues. There we go. It's a double DRS. Mir is going to tuck on the outside. They're going to have the superior speed in the Mercedes. Is going to get the move done. Is going to get the move done on that McLaren. That is some excellent driving from the Silver Arrows. You can see there, as much as Lenny is trying to hold the pace, you can see them fading away. So they are just slowly getting further and further away. They're going to still be within DRS window, but that little wobble is going to cost them, as they're really peeling away now. There we go. Emir is going to stick the nose in, but then dive back out. It's going to dip out of going for a move on the hairpin, even though they would have got DRS on the exit. Okay, there we go. Cass is really under some pressure now. So Emir is going to go for the inside lane. Is going to get it, and in a almost textbook move, is going to come back out in front of Cass and seal the move for themselves. That is some excellent driving. So we're going to quickly take a look at the Coupe now. So hopefully holding it together. Looks all to be good on that front. So Cass, I'm sure, is going to be a little frustrated now. Not only have they been passed by the race leader on the softs, but they are also now outside of the 1 second window to get DRS, which, unless they pull a miracle of driving, is not going to be retrievable, given the fact that we have 6 laps left to go and Emir has a tyre advantage. That gap may only grow and grow. Some very good driving from the front of the pack. All involved should be very proud of themselves in the performances that they put on so far today. One that we are going to keep an eye on quickly is Adam. So they are on much older mediums, may potentially be looking to nurse that older rubber to the end of the race. But they are on the chase against Frederick here, so really struggling by the looks of it for grip and to keep their opponent in the 1 second window. They're just going to be outside as they come to the detection point. It's not going to be enough. The prancing horse has not got enough pep in its step to activate DRS. Not this time round, unfortunately. It's just outside of the DRS zone. I'd say overall, taking a brief break to look at overall pace. Say Joshua's going to set a 1:33 dead and is going to take the fastest lap crown from Emir, at least for now. So some very good pace on display, especially from the soft compound runners. But we are definitely seeing a bit of a pace differential here. Say 1:33s, 1:34s and in some cases 135s. I think that we are seeing a big split from where we had people who ran the softs first and in the initial chaos versus people who ran the mediums first. I think we're starting to see a little bit of a differential there between the two strategies. And as we switch POVs now, have a quick look at the Emirs is just absolutely destroying right now. I would say the pace is on point, and Lenny is almost getting a little bit of a deja vu here. So they, being on slightly older mediums, they aren't going to necessarily have the grip advantage, but I'm sure that this is a very familiar position, almost as if it's ritual, as if it's regular ceremony for the McLaren. They are once again concertinaing between a 1 second gap and trying to keep the pace to the Aston Martin, although they're going to wash very wide in that corner and get a bit of a wobble down as they try to correct themselves. It's not mistakes that you want to be making, especially in this point of the race. Definitely not some mistakes you want to be making here. It has to be commended that in spite of technical issues that may have been faced, we have seen some very clean racing today. So Frederick again getting a time penalty. Not looking too hot for the second Mercedes. So Emir though, speaking of Mercedes, has now pulled a 3-second gap to the rest of the field. Looks like that Silver Arrow's dominance, at least from their front-running driver, is not going to change anytime soon. There is our Red Bull driver. Say Jasper did very well this race, has to be said. Say mimic the strategy of our race leader Emir, going for the mediums first as opposed to the softs, and really running those out for as much as they could, trying to extract all of the life possible, and roughly kept the same time delta to where they came into the pits back on lap, I believe, 18. So still very good driving from the Red Bull, deserves to be commended. They went out without the safety car. The alternate strategy turned out to be viable. Turned out to be a very good decision, at least in the case of our race leader. And perhaps all of our talk about alternate tyre strategies wasn't in vain, as we were blessed with some good battles and good racing throughout the running here today. As we see, so Coop is running the hard tyre to the end of the race, as we looked earlier. Interestingly though, it looks like it could have been a one-stopper for everyone here, with the exceptions of some initial damage. And in fact, if we look at the number of stops, only Joshua, who was initially in an incident, Liam and Frederick have taken 2 stops. Everyone else has been on a one-stopper for today's race. And to that end, the choice of compounds, soft medium looked to be the play. It is a little bit confusing as to why Coop went for the hard compound, where they could very well have eked out those softs a little bit longer and then gone to mediums, which would have lasted them and potentially served them a bit better in terms of pace. Although yet to be seen if there's any more action going to be happening on track thus far. Ooh, a little bit of a connection blip from Cameron there, so monitoring. That is a Red Bull of Jasper, who of course being on a compound advantage, but may start to see a bit of a drop off from those softs soon, is going to be within DRS range. As we come down the start finish straight, you can see that wing is open. They're going to try and gain back a little bit of time, but they're not going to gain back much. Really going to be using that grip on the softer compound to its absolute fullest while they have it, and while they're in a battle situation. And as we go through the S's here, so he's doing very well to follow despite the dirty air. Going to be some very good driving on display. Although didn't look to catch all the pace from the latter half of the S as they become to start finish. The back straight, correction. Jasper is going to have about 5/10 to catch up. He's going to have DRS and is going to have a nice straight to play with. There we go. So they're going to make a move around the outside. Cameron is going to hold the inner. Jasper's going to keep it together, though. He's going to get a really good exit powered out. It's going to be a little bit of contact between themselves and the McLaren. We potentially see any damage. Doesn't look like it as we take a bit of an airborne view. Cameron, and unfortunately, losing out this fight. Red Bull doing very well as they held it around the outside brilliantly, coming off the back straight, and has done excellently to get the gap. Although, ideally, not quite though. I was going to say if they managed to get the DRS out of Cameron's hands on the start-finish straight, that would have been the move veritably sealed. And I say very good driving from the Red Bull, really making some good use of that tyre advantage. One that we actually can take a quick peek at, however, is Frederick. Now, so I wanted to take a look at Frederick here. Say, certainly pushing track limits. I say, well, of course, the positions are provisional as they are subject to our internal penalties and race conduct system. But Frederick looked to be racking up the 3-second penalty, so potentially where they've been pushing track limits or just trying to maximize everything that they can out of the laps. Speaking of penalties, Coops, they've got one there potentially for washing out wide by the looks of it. But yeah, say that we, of course, in the Invictus Racing League, say we do have our own internal stewarding system. We have stewards who do review any incidents posted or any penalties that come up as a result of the game to confirm their legality, confirm their legitimacy, although not all are removed. Some, if not most, are upheld in a lot of cases. But no, it will certainly be questioned as to where Frederick will end up, given the amount of time penalties they racked up over the course of this race, at least as far as internal game standing goes. And as you see, a little bit of a wobble there. Not really, shouldn't really be having a problem in terms of grip. They are well within the medium's life still, so I think that they are just trying to maximize as best they can while they come to the last lap of the race. I say Adam doing very well to nurse 18-lap-old mediums. I say that is still nearing the end of the life of the medium compounded tyres, where you start to see that drop off from what we could see. Doing very well to hold it, but it really cannot be understated. So with a over 4-second gap, once again, this is going to be the 6th race in a row for the Mercedes driver, for Amir here. So a little bit of a wobble, but with a 4.5-second lead, you are looking at your race winner, ladies and gentlemen. So for the 6th race in a row, Emir Durakovic is going to take the checkered flag and is going to win here in Texas for the United States Grand Prix. What a race. The alternate strategy playing in their favor for sure. It's a brilliantly done. Another very strong race win. Although, interestingly enough, the fastest lap is going to go to Joshua. It's not going to be Amir this time. Excellent driving. That alternate strategy certainly paying dividends for some of the drivers here. So as we look to see what is going on. Looks like it is a bit of a cool down lap for the AlphaTauri as they finish up the race here in the United States. Brilliant racing by all involved, as always. It was excellently driven. Frederick's AI having a little bit of a moment, but we move forward. No, excellent driving from all involved. And Amir is going to get driver of the day, coming up from relatively low on the field to take the win. Of course, it's going to be a brilliant, another job well done. And I'm sure the Silver Arrows are going to be very happy with that result. The Constructors are definitely looking strong. And there we are. There you have it, ladies and gents. That is going to be the final standing. So Amir, of course, taking the win for the 6th time in a row now. 45 minutes race time. Brilliantly done in the Mercedes. Cass in the 2nd place. Aston Martin. Jasper in the Red Bull. The 2 McLarens of Cameron and Lenny doing very well. Definitely getting some good Constructors points for their team there. Adam is going to be in 6th. The same. Frederick is going to take 7th place, likely due to the penalties. And then you have the 2 AlphaTauris, 8th and 9th of Liam and Joshua and Coop heading up the rear in the Alpine, but still scoring a point. So all drivers have something to walk away with today. It was brilliant racing from all folks involved. It has been an absolute pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, as always. It's always a pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to commentate for you all. Once again, my name is Sappy, aka Ben. You can find me personally on Twitter and on Twitch, where I do commentating for Forza Horizon 5, as well for Team Wars. But in terms of the Invictus Racing League, you better not miss the next race. We are heading to the beautiful streets of Monaco for the next round. It will certainly be interesting to see how drivers fare. Say very tight streets, very narrow barriers, no room for error on this track. So hopefully we will see some exciting racing there. But for now, it's been a pleasure commentating for you all, and we will see you next week on the Monegasque streets of Monte Carlo. But farewell all for now. See you soon.